my physical body. Because I am more than physical matter, I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world. I deeply desire to expand, to experience, to know, to understand, to control, to use such greater energies and energy systems as may be beneficial and constructive to me and to those who follow me. I deeply desire the help and cooperation, the assistance, the understanding of those individuals whose wisdom, development, and experience are equal to or greater than my own. I ask their guidance and protection from any influence or any source that might provide me with less than my stated desires.
I do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about time. I seek that which has been made hidden. As a part of a family of explorers of consciousness, I'm the void.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
Broadcasting live from a shack on a hill in the Mossy Creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. This is Lighting the Void live. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Happy Turkey Day, Turkey Night. It is November the 28th, 2024, as we head into the late night here. On into Black Friday. And if you're spending your Thanksgiving evening with us, God bless you. It's good to have you. We might finish this Vera Stanley Alder text tonight. The good news is, I think I fixed the PC. I had to update some drivers and things of that nature. It's still taxing the PC, but it's not flickering like it was. I think the driver's helping. Let's say what's up to everybody in the chat. Wes, what's up? Domek, happy Turkey Day, brother. MJ, Christy Belly, Cosmic, Dutchy, Delina, Dan Beard, what's happening? Sir Wolf, and Ava, and all the lurkers. All right, so, man, I don't know how much you guys ate, but I ate here. I made something for my father, and then I went over to my friend Jeff's and visited with them. I ate some more, and then I was streaming Call of Duty on my personal YouTube channel. I dropped that in the Discord. I guess that'll be my fun gaming channel or whatever, but I was streaming over there, and it all just hit me. Like, I got a little tired. I'm a little sleepy. That's what Thanksgiving's about, right? It is kind of odd that we we celebrate a holiday that has everything to do with us taking this country. I don't want to get into that, and then to celebrate it, we stuff our faces until we're about to pass out. I love that intro, and I never get tired of it. Well, I love that intro too, but I might have to change it. You know, that intro gets flagged every time on YouTube, because there is a small segment in there that Stevie Steezy did, the DJ that made that. that I guess came from another DJ. Just a small segment. I didn't know that you could get flagged for remixing stuff that's already been remixed, but apparently you can. So I may have to, I don't know, we may have to change it. I hope not, but. Okay. What else? Are we safe? Yeah, we're safe. Now, if you guys follow Conscious Corey, I know you guys are familiar with Conscious Corey, who sometimes frequents the channel here. I would follow him on TikTok. It looks like he found something crazy on the moon, like a video of some kind of light at the top of the moon or something. I don't know what it was. It was really weird looking. It looked like a nipple or something, a light nipple on the top of the moon. Maybe I can find the link later and drop it to you. Maybe. But it looks like I think where we left off is where Vera Stanley Alder was saying that humanity has taken its salvation into its own hands because we're coming into this age of Aquarius, so to speak, right? So having taken a lightning and very superficial survey of the history of all the ancient wisdom, we can now trace the evidences of its resurrection at the present time. The first steps were taken towards the end of the 19th century by H.P. Blavatsky, that woman that you always see on the cover of all those books that's got that crazy 1,000-yard occult stare. Yeah, her. H.P. Blavatsky. I'm hitting buttons I shouldn't be hitting. Sorry. What's up to you guys on the fringe, too? I see you on the radio. Yeah, we're back on the station, too. H.P. Blavatsky contributed greatly by her inspired researches among ancient documents and treasures she brought to light and so tirelessly analyzed. As you know, some say that H.P. Blavatsky was one of the only women. It's rumors. There's no evidence of this, but more than one person has said that she brought, like, manifested things from the astral into the physical world. Like, that was her thing, that she could do that. I have a hard time believing it because what you're talking about is manifesting something physical that wasn't there before out of thin air. I don't know, but they say that she could do it. She founded the work, which has since been carried forward by the Theosophists, and which consists of a modernization of some of the ancient doctrines, together with public instruction in the form of lectures and libraries. Various other teachers and communities, too numerous to mention here, have come forward all over the world to add their quota to the widespread interest. Some of these stress the mystical side, some of them are occultist, and some of them are pretty practical. But everywhere, there is a banding together of earnest people thrilled with their particular fraction of the unearthed wisdom, and each little group usually convinced that it possesses the one and only truth or the way of salvation, kind of like religion. A nipple got my attention. Jay says, "What's up, Jay?" Hey, Sherry Ann, happy Thanksgiving. For a long time, progress has been hampered by the old feeling of separatism and intolerance of another's methods of the approach to truth. But even that handicap is finally beginning to be overcome. The cry for worldwide unity, peace, brotherhood, and the casting down of barriers is increasingly making itself heard. The League of Nations points the way, however imperfectly, to the future welding together of nations, and such a movement as the Oxford Group, now called the Moral Rearmament, appears to be inspired, in spite of handicaps, to work for the future fusing of all classes in common Christian spirit. Fraternities like the World Fellowship of Faith have fought against almost insuperable odds of intolerance and stagnation to draw together the religions of the world and bring to light their fundamental sameness. Groups have been formed all over the earth for purposes of spiritual propaganda, united meditations, and training for the selfless service of healing and harmonizing by thought and prayer. The word international is now so much in use that it almost is becoming a household word. There are humane societies for the prevention of cruelty of all kinds are also doing valuable work and gaining increasing support, while education and health culture are being revolutionized. Nudist movements. We were talking about this last night. Nudist movements, vegetarian and nature cure practices, biochemistry, and the latest method of psychoanalysis all point the way to the future universal yoga of physical attainment, which is being ushered in. Any of you guys familiar with what nudist movements are going on right now? Because I don't know. The promised individualization of the Aquarian age is already in evidence. No newspaper can hope for success unless it provides crossword puzzles for competitions or, in other ways, allows its readers to contribute each his own quota of self-expression or effort. No film star dare runs the risk of ignoring the individual outpourings and demands of his fans. And from the lowest grades of humanity to the highest can be seen signs of increasing independence, self-consciousness, and awareness. Show of hands, though. I'm just asking you guys, okay? This was written in 1970. Do you think that she's right? Do you think that increased awareness and increased independence and all the stuff that she's saying actually happened? That it came to pass? Just curious. It might have, I would say probably in the early 70s, late 60s, it probably did. It is true that at the present time, the world is racked in parts by wars and bound down by oppression and dictatorships, and that much cruelty and selfishness is in evidence. But these very activities are a proof of the restlessness and striving among all ranks, the stirring up of the mud in the pond before it can be cleaned. It is like the final orgy of a drunkard, which precipitates the violent reaction through which he is able to regenerate. What? Bear's getting a little weird here. We're a little behind. You're a little behind, or we're a little behind? I think we're a little behind. The urge to combat stagnation and to struggle out of the ruts of convention and go forward, no matter how, has been evidenced for some time past in the adventures into modern art, modern literature, modern music, and even modern manners and morals. All these signs are healthy and promising, and only await the leadership of those who have put themselves in touch with their inner realities to bear rich fruit. One worldwide group of people, called the Men and Women of Goodwill, are pledged to contribute the leadership in all phases of human living, fired by a lofty ideal of brotherhood which remains completely nonpartisan and all-embracing. They are introducing an international periodical to foster the expression and reciprocity of goodwill all over the globe. This will be an advance on the hundreds and hundreds of periodicals already in circulation, which are solely concerned with the activities and teachings of their own little esoteric fraternity. An even deeper understanding of the arts and sciences is being taught by the schools founded by Rudolf Steiner, whose very name is an inspiration to the students of the occult. And so the work grows on all sides. There are some of particular gifts who are practicing alchemy itself, revising the ancient mystic knowledge and probably preparing a wonderful step forward for medical science. Others are working faithfully and steadily to spin a web of constructive thought across the world by formation of groups everywhere meeting regularly in meditation. And in the church itself, many are beginning to feel the fires of inspiration rising once more, and their congregations are quick to appreciate it. Even those courageous ones who seek to expose the shortcomings of the medical professions are met halfway by many of the doctors themselves. The flame of regeneration and renaissance is burning high, and many are little sparks, fanned by patient souls ready now to flare into a rich fulfillment. We find, too, that a higher type of teaching is gradually permeating various centers of investigation, both spiritualist and Christian scientists, occultist and psychic, a type of teaching which is insensibly and subtly drawing them all closer to each other. And at the same time, the materialistic scientist, chemist, and experimenter is, by virtue of his very persistence, approaching to the self-same heart of truth in his own way. A wonderful era may soon dawn when humanity will figuratively rub its eyes to find that blinkers and barriers of so many kinds have somehow melted away, and that it has learned to turn its back upon the illusion of division, and seek only to unite and fuse all people and all activities into the coherent whole, which ever becomes simpler and more complete. Man, that deserves some applause. Back in the 70s, I would say, right? There you go. To see Vera Stanley Alder going, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. But I don't think that this is real right now. So Vera Stanley Alder talks about dangers in the path. There are dangers along the way. He who seeks truth, the philosopher's stone, and is determined to uncover and master the secrets of the universe for him or I'm going to say it, him or herself, because this whole book is just himself, is treading a path beset with many pitfalls, dangers, and illusions. The weakest points in his character, the tiniest chinks in his armor, will be cunningly assailed. Honesty is the talisman which will enable him to reach and recognize truth, pure, plain honesty, and honesty about himself, his purpose, and other people. Seekers are sidetracked mainly by two things: a love of sensationalism, they like to be sensationalized, and laziness, both of which undermine their honesty. It must always be remembered that sensationalism, or emotional excitement, is to the mentality what sexual overindulgence is to the body. Even religious emotion can be a type of mental sensuality, and therefore unbalancing. The discovery of truth is the most wonderful, powerful, and helpful work that any human being can undertake, and the capacity to understand it is the greatest attribute which the mind can cultivate. To attain this inestimable reward of wisdom, man must expect and be eager to go through at least as much discipline, study, and restriction as he would endure while learning the piano or training as a boxer. He must remember also that in uncovering the truth, there is never a last word nor a completely accurate statement about any particle of it, because neither the human language nor the brain can encompass it. Truth, to anyone, is only that much of it which he can as yet understand. At a certain stage, even an untruth may be taught. For instance, primitive nations had to be given a jealous god of war until they evolved sufficiently to accept a loving god of peace. The mind must be trained, just like the muscle, to cope with certain conceptions, and this very training enlarges and expands the capacity to understand still more. After a period of such training, one can explain to an intelligent person something which he would have been quite incapable of visualizing at the beginning of it. It would have been impossible to talk of wireless or the telephone or the gramophone to a man 200 years ago. Neither his brain nor language was equal to it. He was living in the Dark Age. But to one of the wise priests of Egypt living 10,000 years ago, one could have talked of these inventions and probably attained a few suggestions. To understand the fundamental truths of life is to understand all. Those are the truths which Christ said would make us free. The first effort of the seeker then must be to avoid laziness and to love honesty and discipline. When once we are attuned to this ideal, we will be enabled to distinguish a wise and good person from a charlatan, and so avoid an infinite number of delusions and dangers. The hallmarks of the wise are easily distinguished. Wisdom gives humility, peace, poise, and strength. Its owner ceases to be afraid, to be rushed, sickly, worried, ambitious, emotional, sentimental, or changeable. His voice is resonant, neither shrill nor grating, and his presence is never exhausting. A truly wise one will be sparing of words. Now will he loosely speak of initiations, masters, visions, guides, or his own powers, and people who talk of these things are childish. They have not felt the awe and reverence which first-hand knowledge gives. A wise one will never ask for money for teaching spiritual things. It's against the law. He will have reached the stage where money sufficient for his needs comes without asking. Nor will he ever try to persuade anyone to do or to think anything, nor will he attempt to teach unless earnestly asked to do so, for he has learnt to have the greatest care for another's free will. A wise one seldom uses the word I. In other words, they don't talk about themselves all the time. He will never attack anyone or any cause, yet he is full of strength and energy. He's learned to be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. He's not a crank on any one subject. He has become such a reservoir of love and of constrictive thought that he is a worker of white magic, lucky to those around him, and the bringer of miracles to pass. Such one is he who has for some while faithfully trodden the path of discipleship which leads to godhood. He passes unnoticed among all those who are not seeking with the same purity of motive, the same vibration as his own. He is sometimes very cleverly aped by the charlatan, or he who tries to serve both God and mammon, the worker of black magic, the bogus spiritual teacher. This latter bogus spiritual teacher is usually very attractive to others. He has a strong personality and often arouses extreme love and devotion in people around him. This is because such a one has accumulated throughout many lives because of his energy, the experience, vitality, and power which he can now use for either good or evil. But a very evil person is potentially a very good one. It is the stored power which counts and which gains a hold on people. That is why the enterprising lost sheep is of more importance than all who stagnate meekly in the fold. If a charlatan spiritual teacher were to give himself up finally wholly to good, he would gradually defeat his own personality and lose one by one those habits and ruts of thought which give him what his friends would call his little ways, those very human attributes. A person who poses as a highly evolved being or a teacher of others and yet has human habits and frailties makes a tremendously strong appeal because his achievement apparently needs little discipline and rigidity. For that reason, his followers are eager to adore his personality, and he allows, against the law, such adoration. Thereby he feeds his own vanity and their attachment to physical form. They're not encouraged to discriminate, but to believe blindly what he teaches them. And the teacher, once this blindness is established, encourages no spur of criticism or judgment to keep him to giving of his best. So the little community soon becomes a sham and intellect retires. I think Vera Stanley Alder's talking about cults here. You know, when people, it's usually that's how a cult starts, right? Because someone will come along, present something, and everyone's like, oh man, that makes so much sense. And then they say that they're some kind of super soldier or super spiritual person, or they have super abilities or whatever. The situation can frequently be met with, it is an ambitious imitation of the real thing, and because of a lack of honesty on all sides, it goes rapidly downhill. The combination of personality worship, sensationalism, and hypnotism soon leads these people into the toils of emotional, sensual, and sexual indulgence of all kinds. Bingo. Do you guys remember when we read Psychic Self-Defense? If you think about all of the cults out there, right? The first thing they do is like they can present things really well, right? They know how to rile people's emotions up. Then it always turns into like a sexual thing too at the end of it, at the very end of it. Except for Jonestown. I don't think he tried to sleep with everybody's wives, but he did get a bunch of people to kill themselves, you know. Fraudulence, destructiveness, perversion, and intellectual distortion flourish in this soil, and the link with the higher mind is broken. It was in such foundations that the horrible black mass and the orgies of black magic were able to take root. Black magic is simply the use of the developed mind power for a wrong purpose. It exists in ratio to the strength of will and intelligence of the person using it and the lack of such in the victim or victims. Any desire for power over others, remember this. You never want to have power over other people. That you don't ever want to desire that. Power or control over other people. Ever. That's evil. In my opinion, that's evil. The desire for power over others for either good or bad reasons is an act contrary to the great law which stipulates complete free will. The moment such power is established, we have a state of hypnotism in slight or intense form, and therefore which is a condition of black magic. Yeah. Black magic is not a thing of the past. It's a manipulation of natural laws. It is with us always, existing, for instance, in such groups around charlatan teachers as have just been described, existing sometimes side by side, almost hand in glove with white magic. Rasputin was a typical example of a modern black magician, and I can think of other living examples who could also be listed in this category. All such groups provide interesting psychological studies. The author personally knows of several. And one, the quote, teacher, a woman, claims to be the reincarnation of one of the apostles of Christ. This is earnestly believed by a worthy but hypnotized little troop of women followers who are blind to the fact that their spiritual leader breaks most of the commandments under their very eyes. Another group is headed by a man who claims and is eagerly believed to be the reincarnation of 3 famous people in one. There are, I understand, several different reincarnations of the famous Rosicrucian Count Saint-Germain, alive at present, each supported by his little group. Yeah. How many people have you... I think I had a few on the show in the past, actually, that talked about how they were the reincarnation of Saint-Germain. In fact, up to the date, the author has been honored by the acquaintance of quite an array of reincarnated saints and historical celebrities. There are also, I am told, certain colored teachers claiming the highest spiritual status, of whose relations with their white women disciples it would be better not to inquire. The hypnotized women believing themselves to be nearly as honored as the chosen of the Lord, sometimes, even with an acquiescing husband in the background. Yikes. All these things are going on, compromising an almost inextricable mixture of good and evil. The wise seeker will learn to understand the necessity for it all and wade through it in safety, protected by the life belt of his own pure motives. He will not turn in dislike or disapproval from those whose leaders, whose savor of charlatanism or incompetence. They each have their audiences who are drawn to them because of similar vibrations and could go at their particular stage, but nowhere else. In other words, what Vera's saying is everybody that has the same vibration or is on the same vibratory thing, whether it's good, bad, whatever you want to call it, they're going to end up there anyways. So there's really nothing you could do about it until they come out of it themselves, you know. Sometimes good teaching comes from very faulty people. Now, this fact is a means of stimulating students into recognizing truth for itself as apart from a personality. On the other hand, a person who is intrinsically good and true may be unable to utter a word of sense to satisfy a seeker, nor take any interest in his own seeking. The world is full of infinite variety, and all are seeking and learning in their different ways. It's hard to know who fundamentally is the most, quote, advanced. When the aspirant can understand this and grow to love his neighbors for their struggles and faults and utterly abstain from any critical feeling, then will all things be added unto him. There will be no barriers to prevent it. Like attracts like, and his own honesty and charity will inevitably draw to him as a magnet all that is good. Man, I would love to believe that. And I think that does actually happen eventually. Think about this, just from your own experience. If you consider yourself an honest, authentic, giving person, and when I say giving, whatever you have to give, your time, your emotions, your love, money, whatever it is, whatever language you speak, I guess. If you've been honest and authentic for a long time, and you've been loving and devoted for a long time, did it vibrate those kind of people into your life? I got to say, like, from my experience, I'm not, trying to negate what Vera Stanley Alder's saying here, but from my experience, a lot of times it attracts the opposite. But I think what Vera's saying here is, if you stay steadfast, eventually that vibration you will find your people, By the same token, any weakness which still remains within your character will attract him to that with which has its affinity. If he has a talent or a latent tendency to accept too much from others and to lean on them, he will be an easy prey for a certain type who bind people to them by a great show of generosity. Holy shit, I've done that. Big time. And nowadays, we call that love bombing, Vera. So if you have a latent tendency just to allow too much shit from other people, eventually you'll be an easy prey for a certain type of people who come along and just are super generous to you. But what those people are really trying to do is bind you to them. I'm going to say something here, okay? One of the scariest things I ever heard, and it was a red flag, and I did not pay attention to it because I was one of these type of people. I would take so much, like, it mattered to me how much everybody liked me. Not too long ago, I wanted everybody that I talked to like me, not adore me, not worship me, not admire me, none of that shit. Just like me, just want me around, just like I wanted them around. And so because I wanted that, I would put up with lots of shit that not even a narcissist would put up with, but I would just say an ordinary person with ordinary self-esteem wouldn't put up with, but I would. So when you're that giving of yourself and you're over giving of yourself, you're unbalanced. And then it starts to attract people into your life that they come along and they say, you're such a kind and generous person. You deserve better. Here, I'm going to help you. Okay, great. That's great. Second, I had a person come into my life and then this is the red flag that I'm talking about. Yeah, I got to say this, okay, because it's one of the hellish things I ever went through emotionally and psychologically in my entire life. So this person was very generous to another person in their life, and I heard this story about how they did all these things for this other person. But this other person was a kid to them. This was supposedly their partner or their ex-partner, but they called them a kid all the time, which is a disrespectful thing to say. Like if you, as an adult, if someone called you a kid, oh, that kid loves and adores me. And I would say to this person, I would say, look, don't you think what you're doing is like disrespectful or whatever? Shouldn't you tell them the truth? Shouldn't you do this or that? Really, I was too afraid. I was too much of a chicken shit at the time to say, hey, all this isn't right. What you're doing to that person, I don't want to be a part of. But no. I was accepting this person's generosity. I really liked this person. And the thing that came out of their mouth was this. Oh, well, that kid loves and adores me. They're not going anywhere. I'm not even worried about it. For a moment, I was like, what the fuck? Just for a moment. But then I was like, oh, well, maybe it's something I don't understand. Well, sure enough, that's what starts happening is like, I don't know how to explain it, man, but this rings so true with me that they'll come along and they'll do a lot for you to bind you to them because they have, and it's not because they're evil or anything like that. It's just they have an abandonment issue or some kind of wound there that instead of just being open and honest and vulnerable about it, and then working through it like you would be willing to with them or whoever. They love bomb people that are overgiving and then freak out on them if they try to stand up for themselves. Watch out for that shit. Or they talk about other people as if they know that they're adored, so those people aren't going anywhere. That, my friend, was one of the biggest red flags I will never ignore again. Ever. They seem genuine, yeah. Cosmic says, I had someone tell me some dark shit a few years ago and they were scamming my money and messing with me. Yeah, I'm not saying that don't accept people's help. Like for the Domex, for example, I've accepted their help because I know that they're good people. But I had to wade through a lot of, a lot of stuff. And here's another thing that you'll know if you're falling for this too, if you're going down this road or you're getting stuck in these situations. The people that are around that are genuinely trying to help you. This somehow or another, this other thing that is trying to get you to be binded to it will segregate you from those people or play you against them or whatever. And those people that are genuinely trying to help you can see what's going on. They're trying to tell you what's going on the whole time, but you're not listening because you're too into it. And just like I was, you're too into making sure that this other person sees you for who you really are when they don't give a damn. They could care less. So by that same token, any weakness which still remains within his character will attract him to that with which it has affinity. That is a weakness that I had. If he has a latent tendency to accept too much from others and to lean on them, he will be an easy prey for a certain type of people who like to bind people to them by a great show of generosity. If he finds himself saying, the one thing I cannot bear is meanness, I do like a generous character, let him reflect that possibly he still has something of the parasite within him and is not determined to be self-reliant. This right here, folks, what Vera's saying. There's lots of things I'm not sure I agree with on this book, but this one right here, this is one of the biggest lessons I've ever learned in my life. Okay. The one thing I cannot bear is meanness. I do like generous people. Let him reflect that possibly he still has something of the parasite within him. He's not determined to be self-reliant. In other words, it comes from a place of fear of being self-reliant because you're telling yourself you're going to be alone. If I take full responsibility of myself, okay? If I take 100% responsibility of my psychological state, of my emotional state, of my physical world, of my spiritual life, and I rely on no one else but myself to achieve these things, then I'm going to be alone. It's better to latch on to people because I'm scared. Number one, scared of being alone, but number two, feeling like you're less than somehow. So you have to be attached to other people so they'll fulfill this part of you that you don't think you have. And there's these predator kind of people that can smell it. They're not bad people. They have issues of their own. They want to bind people to them just like you're binding yourself to those people. It's the same thing. It's like that one time when I was talking about how you have the empath and the narcissist. The empath thinks that the narcissist is the most evil person on the planet. But the truth is the narcissist thinks the empath is the most naive and weak person too. But they learn something from each other, and they both have that same kind of weird attachment parasite in them. I'm just telling you. And this Pluto, the stage of like Pluto in Aquarius that's coming around, I think is going to, Like if we can go through this together, right? If you, and here's another thing, like let's say you help somebody, right? Or you accept help. Make sure that you do everything in your power to be independent. If you're going to accept someone's help, then help them back, balance it out, right? If you're going to help somebody, help them a little, help them enough to help them get on their feet, whatever you want to do, and then back off and let them try to do it on their own. Don't create something toxic, because this Pluto and Aquarius thing, I think, is going to be the big kicker. It's one thing for all of us to be I guess you could say, authentic and genuine. But I think that it's going to make us all stronger if we can become self-reliant. I'm not just talking about, I don't know why I'm going on this tangent. I think it's because it's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned. All right. Yeah. Actually, this thing that Vera's talking about is choking me up thinking about it. You can't truly follow your passions, your dreams, or I guess love another person the way you want, take care of another person, unless you can become 100% self-reliant. It isn't just money. It isn't just the material world. In fact, your best resources are your ability to handle things psychologically and emotionally. I think money and materiality and all that stuff is secondary compared to that. If you can pivot and handle anything, no matter what situation you're in, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, all that, the money thing shouldn't be an issue. It shouldn't be too much of an issue. Let him be aware lest he is captured by one who has learned how much it pays to be generous and how easy it is by the means to get some people completely under someone's influence. Think about that. Let's say you were a millionaire or whatever. You won the lottery. Now you're a millionaire, but you're like this lonely person who just loves validation, almost narcissistic like. And you move into this community just full of people in poverty. We've seen it on 1,000 times on TV. The government does it to us with subsidies and things like that. It gets you all dependent and addicted to them. Let's see. Sometimes a teacher who preaches and practices generosity will soon obtain financial help from those well-meaning seekers who are able to give it, and will then proceed to gain more adherents by being generous with other people's money. What? What does that mean? Sometimes a teacher who preaches and practices generosity will soon obtain financial help from those well-meaning seekers who are able to give it, and will then proceed to gain more adherents by being generous with other people's money. Oh, so he's using other people's money and giving it to more people to grow bigger, I guess. Robbing Peter to pay Paul, pretending it's like he's the one that's doing it. This very real abuse is often put into practice, and the final result being that much money which would otherwise be given to the poor is spent for the pomp and comfort of the teacher and a somewhat nebulous cause. Oh, listen, you guys, one of the most interesting things I've ever seen, and I'll have to find it, is that Netflix documentary on cults. There was like 5 or 6 different cults in there, and there was this one cult. God, I can't remember the name of it, but this guy had such a big cult that he would take these people's money, right? And he lived in this mansion, and damn, I can't think of like all the details, but I remember how amazed I was at how these people would just keep giving him money. And then he started feeling entitled, like this like rich, snobby, entitled guy, that if he didn't have this certain couch, this certain furniture, this certain food, or this certain artwork, or this kind of whatever shit, he was like a spoiled brat. And these people would be like, oh my God, Master whatever's not getting his grapes or something, and they would just keep throwing money at him. And these people that came on and they talked about how they were under this dude's spell, man. They came on and talked about it, and they were intelligent, smart people. But this guy knew how to influence people spiritually and emotionally. He knew how to get their worship, or how he could get them to look at him like he had some kind of deep secret that was going to teach them the ways of whatever, It was it was so crazy. I wish I could remember the name of that cult, though. The government is the ultimate vampire. Well, I think, too, nowadays it's different. Like, this was written in the 70s. There was lots of spiritual cults back then. Nowadays, everybody's on YouTube and stuff. So people really get to decide and discern what's valuable to them. You can donate towards anything. I support 3 or 4 different shows. It's like the value for value model is great, but no one's going to get a monopoly on generous people anymore. I don't think. I think those days are over. But I do think that it did happen a few years ago. I don't want to name names or anything, but the biggest one, until it finally ended. Well, I'll say it. It was that blue chicken Corey Good stuff that was going on. That was the biggest online cult I'd ever seen in my entire life. And it was complete horseshit. Complete horseshit. These people made all kinds of money. Ryan used to, the stuff that Ryan Gable, when he was on the Fringe FM, the stuff he was telling me, I was like, nah, that's not real. Like the cabanas these people were staying in and stuff. Nah, that's not real. Until he showed it to me. It was real. It was a massive, crazy cult, man. Hester says, I want to watch the Twin Flame one. Yeah, that's another thing, too. That Twin Flame thing. There might be twin flames. That might be a real thing. I think it could be. But the way that they're milking it and teaching it and adding so much woo to it. Yeah, it's nuts. Gaia is a psyop. I'm not going to say anything about that. I'm not going to say anything, but anytime you start talking about Gaia, your YouTube videos start getting taken down. Sometimes a teacher who preaches and practices generosity will soon obtain financial help from those well-meaning seekers who are able to give it, and then will proceed to gain more followers by being generous with those people's money. A new car, Oprah. This very real abuse is often put into practice, and the final result being that much money that should be given to the poor is spent for the pomp and comfort of the teacher. Man, that is going on today like crazy. A genuine teacher always deserves and usually gains support by his pomp, and circumstance is conspicuous by its absence. The final warning which must be given is about the imagination. By this word, I refer to that power which the mind has to form images of that which it desires, and what it uses more successfully subconsciously than deliberately and consciously. There's a tremendous, intricate, and forceful world of subtle life lying just below the threshold of the conscious mind, which can be manipulated to produce various results. For instance, we sometimes hear of an earnest, emotional female who has been practicing either meditation or, quote, psychic development, not wisely, but too well, describing a wonderful vision she had, perhaps of Jesus himself, who possibly spoke words of praise to her. Then she becomes vastly important and ecstatic about their vision, and her friends are impressed. And now she's super important and special. But what really happened? To begin with, the lady, by affirming such an experience, gives away at once her complete ignorance as to what is possible in such a way. In all probability, that which occurred was simply a case of imagination or self-hypnotism into seeing and hearing that for which she desires and longs for, or she may perhaps have picked up the thought form of someone else's imagery. In any case, the one thing that is certain is that if anyone were sufficiently advanced to obtain a genuine spiritual experience, they would be so filled with awe and so alive to the laws pertaining to such experiences that they would find it quite impossible to even say a word about it or describe it. The only sign of it would be a radiance emanating from them to those who are sufficiently sensitive to feel it. The great Moses, after having talked with the Lord, was obliged to veil his face because it shone so much that the people could not bear to look upon it. The imagination can play many tricks on us, but we can test things out pretty safely in the following way. Any experience we may have which makes us want to tell about it is not the real thing, but something to which we have laid ourselves open through an unconscious wish for a thrill or to acquire importance. I don't know about that, because I don't agree with that at all. Because let's take, for example, Mark, who got shot 8 times, had 4 out-of-body experiences. Now, he wants to come over here and talk about it because he wants to tell people that this realm is real so that they're not afraid anymore. He's not doing it because he wants to feel special. Trust me, I know this guy. He don't give a shit about feeling special. In fact, he wants to talk about it so that everybody can either do it, know it, or not be afraid of it. The guy doesn't think he's special. So here, I think we have a case of possibly Vera being upset with a whole lot of different cult leaders and spiritual, quote, gurus, and projecting now that anybody that has an experience that wants to tell about it has to be some kind of fake or fraud. And I think that's that's not true at all, if I'm reading this right. Of a real experience, we will never wish to speak because we will realize intuitively that each soul grows at its own pace and that our vision was sacred to us alone. See, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I mean, having an out-of-body experience, man, all I wanted to do was tell everybody about it. And it was because I wanted people to not be afraid of death or afraid of, I don't believe that whatsoever. But I get where he's coming from, because a lot of people that say, well, I saw an alien, or I saw a Bigfoot, or I went to the 10th or 15th dimension, or whatever. Sometimes it is their imagination, or sometimes they're full of shit. We must never be impressed by any idle and emotional talk we may hear about these things. It's important, however, to try to visualize the condition of that invisible envelope of compressed ether, for want of a better description, which surrounds us and goes by the name of our aura. This contains a vast panorama of photographs, astral talkies of all our memories, both conscious and forgotten. When we are forced slowly out of our bodies in drowning, we see this aura ourselves and review a rapid panorama of the events of our lives, as has often been attested. Anyone who is genuinely clairvoyant, such as a crystal gazer or fortune teller, is able to see this aura on approaching and can pick out pictures of past events as well as those of our subconscious hopes for the future, and therefore describe intimately our dead relatives or our home life almost as easily as we could describe any film that we were watching. There's not necessarily anything wonderful, new, or valuable for us to hear, merely that which is already there, attached to the mind. Sometimes, however, she may even get a correct picture of some future event. In this case, she's probably reading a thought picture in our aura, which we brought up through subconsciously from something we were allowed to learn of in a dream. And for those who are tempted to explore the phenomena of clairvoyance, it is very necessary to study the human makeup from the psychoanalytical point of view. Otherwise, it's easy to be rendered awestruck by some occurrence for which there is a scientific explanation. The world is indeed full of many astonishing conditions and activities, and it's better to have a clear understanding of anything untoward that occurs that to become paralyzed with superstition, emotionalism, and be helplessly swayed by influences which might otherwise be either ignored or put to good use or good account. There is no black magic, however powerful, no evil force, nor astral horror, which can have the slightest effect upon anyone who does not contain a strain of the same vibration in their own makeup. So one who is completely honest and wholeheartedly trusts in the power of good is an untouchable as far as evil influences are concerned. According to thy faith, be it done unto thee. Therefore, when any evil influences or threats of misfortune approach, the one attacked needs to only cleanse his own heart of fear, doubt, or any ulterior motives, and he is at once protected by his own vibrations. If we tune our wireless into Paris, we don't get Moscow. So if we tune our personal wireless into good fortune, all other vibrations will flow through and onwards without finding any anchorage. It's upon this principle that the Christian Scientists and many others work. They know that the fear of anything is a powerful magnet which draws the thing inevitably to the fearful one. And as Job said, that which I greatly feared has come upon me. Fear, laziness, and lack of sincerity are therefore the defects which will lead the seeker onto the left-hand path instead of the right-hand path. The natural karma of this is that he will have to do twice the work before he finally reaches his goal. But if a sharp lookout is kept for the various pitfalls and illusions pointed out in this chapter, much waste of time and many painful humiliations will be avoided. Remember that it's always possible to go straight to the innermost goal and ignore the various stratas of comparatively petty psychic and mental phenomena which lie in between. The really wise have learnt to know. They want neither proof nor practice, and they enjoy bliss and glory here and now, in spite of all circumstances and irrespective of their past, present, or future. Wow. I would give that chapter an applause, but I'm not going to, because there's a couple of things I don't agree with. There's a lot that I do agree with, but I believe in people's testimony. I don't think that's a bad thing. But I do think there is a problem with false testimony, or testimony for the sake of attention, validation, or testimony for the sake of wanting people to admire you or whatever. Like, if you're giving testimony that's going to help soothe people or help people see how wonderful they are and what they're capable of, and it's not about how special you are or what you can do, that's a whole different thing, you know. And we all give our testimonies about things that we want to help others with all the time in our lives. So why would that work differently in the spiritual realm? Why would we keep our mouth shut? Because to me, that's just like hiding your light under a bushel. Why would you do that? If you know something that's really going to help people have a better life, help them love or be loved better, help them release their fear, or even help them have an experience, which would be amazing, why would you not share it? Why? I think it would be more selfish to keep that to yourself, to hide your light. That's just me, though. The Smithsonian has one about the chupacabra, a goat sucker in Puerto Rico, which I found fascinating. What are you guys talking about? Yeah, everything is, what's up, acoustic folk? Everything's for sure vibration and energy. All right. So we gotta pay for the station licensing. Got 3 or 4 minutes here. I think we're definitely at the end of this one. And like I said, next week, Mark's going to come on and talk about the thing that happened to him in the hospital, which I'm excited. I mean, it sucks that it happened to him, of course, but I'm excited to hear about his experience. For sure. I don't know what I can play. Brave New Water Films is $20. What's up? Thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks for the super chat. That's really cool of you. And I got to play something. I'm going to have to delete this later, but I got to play something. All right, we'll be right back. 3-4 minutes tops. So we just got to do the commercial then.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Have you ever wondered, what do the stars say for me? Or, will the next month or the next year be more favorable? How about, are our two signs compatible? Each month, at the new moon, you can ask these questions live with me, your astrologer psychic, Mary DeSena, along with host of Lighting the Void, Joe Root. Join us at the new moon for Cosmic Conditions. We look forward to working with your energy.
Every new moon at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on Fringe FM.
Do you want to know the truth? Are UFOs real? Are aliens visiting Earth? Are governments around the world hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO Seekers, official partner of the Fringe FM, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Join us as we investigate locations like Area 51 by subscribing on YouTube at youtube.com/UFO Seekers.
I'm 54, so basically, it's too late to start saving for retirement, right?
Not right. Starting to save, even in your 50s, can really make a difference.
Well, right now, saving seems hard to wrap my head around. Plus, with the way this year's been going...
Hey, listen, it's okay. You still got this. Just go to aceyourretirement.org. It's an online tool from AARP that can help you get your retirement savings on track no matter your age. It's free and only takes about 3 minutes.
I like 3 minutes.
Yeah, at aceyourretirement.org, you'll chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach. Just answer a few questions and you'll get a personalized plan and tips to help boost your retirement savings. Tips that are easy to understand and tailored to your lifestyle.
I like that too.
Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back. Just head to aceyourretirement.org and make your plan to start saving for retirement.
Thanks.
That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Tombstones climbing up the sky to claim the boredom and the whine of the radiator, to freeze the fates that intertwine, unresolved and undefined in this echo chamber. You've given up the ghost. Just like Lazarus, you know there's an operator, some strange passenger inside. To that strange power I'm resigned like an iron anchor. I'm just a ghost in your stereo.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
All right. So we're back. Last show of the week. And, man, I love that track. Some of the tracks that we get to play are cool. And, if you can support the Fringe FM, please do so. Even if you support the show, that supports the Fringe FM too. In a way, we have a little budget that we have to take care of over there to keep it running too, just in case. And I'm a lover of radio. But I will tell you this, while going back to my old trade and painting homes and stuff, I've learned that it's kind of like some kind of Zen thing. You guys know, you're familiar with Zen, right? You know, Zen helps you get back into like yourself. So while I'm in this house alone by myself, painting, redoing this whole home and everything, I've had a lot of time to think about what's next for Lighting the Void creatively. And I think it's still going to revolve around radio. Not so much, I wouldn't say not so much old school radio. Something different. I'm thinking, though. I'm going to come up with something soon. Brave New Order Film says, on my path towards attaining astral projection, this show is a lamp unto the darkness. Grateful for your show. Blessings from Vegas. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. I love painting too. I just hate the prep. The prep sucks. But the final, I had my own painting business when I was younger, and it really took off. And getting back involved with that again has been kind of a blessing in disguise, Because I've been trying to find, while we're just reading these texts and going through this stuff, I've been thinking about, man, what's next, for Lighting the Void creatively? And I've come up with some ideas, for sure. Hopefully, when I put the final paintbrush on this one house that I'm doing, I will know what that is. But I've got a list of notes. All right, so we're going to sum up this book. We're going to be done with it. But keep in mind, too, you guys remember when we were reading the West Penry papers that Gareth sent us because he was afraid? I'm not going to say Vera Stanley Alder is a bad writer. Not at all. This is one of my favorite books. But we have to remember, it doesn't matter. Even if we're reading books by Pythagoras, Aristotle, even the ancient Egyptian books, you should question everything. You don't have to agree with everything. You have to think for yourself. You should. See, manipulation comes in all forms, I think. It comes in all forms. And at first it starts when people tell you what to think, right? And I don't think sometimes it's necessarily always manipulation, but a lot of times it is. And even the real good manipulators tell you how to think. But the truth is, you have to be the one that that thinks for yourself. I'm not telling you how to think or what to think. I'm telling you, think for yourself. That's it. And you won't have to worry about manipulation or whatever ever again. You won't have to worry about if someone's lying to you or not telling you the truth, because you're not afraid to question things. You're not afraid to stand out and say, hey, this don't make sense. Are you sure if that's right? Because this doesn't make sense to me. That kind of awareness, in my opinion, just in my opinion alone, is the kind of awareness that you need, because when your curiosity is that open and you do get like have an out-of-body experience. Yeah, you mean I have to think for myself, by myself? No, not necessarily, But you do need to think for yourself. You know, what do they say about leaders? Like, become your own leader. And then when you finally do become a leader, one of the biggest burdens of a leader is that they just want to be around other leaders. For sure. You have to think for myself. That's a pretty good one, Jay. Okay. So we're going to sum up the book. And summing up, an effort has been made in this book to take a necessarily summarized survey of life as it confronts the independent seeker. The existence of a vast accumulation of so-called knowledge and belief has been pointed out, but the conceptions of the cosmos, which have held sway over millions for thousands of years, have been briefly sketched. There remains one final theory to be expounded. That which is called by some people epigenesis. I was going to say epigenesis. The name means an addition to that which was created. In other words, evolution or progress. It concerns itself with the fact that in the continual reincarnation of all particles and phases of life, the memory of experience is brought back, plus the deductions and adaptation gained from that experience. The evolution of plants, insects, man, and planet consists of a gradual refining, strengthening, and perfecting under the ever-changing influences of still greater developing bodies. Even in the vast cycles of historical development, each recurring sequence of Golden Age, Dark Age, and the Age of Energy is reproduced on a higher and more powerful note and embraces the tackling of more difficult conditions. Humanity has just been required to pass through an age of deeper ignorance, a more profound blind spot than ever before, and has passed through it credibly. It may therefore look forward to a golden age which will bring deeper fulfillment and wider understanding and power than any preceding. Epigenesis is the answer to those who say that the world has not progressed, but only if they are ready energetically to seek this answer for themselves. In studying the great religions of the world, therefore, epigenesis must be taken into account. Each of the teachers of the world, Zoroaster, Krishna, Lao Tzu, Buddha, adapted former teachings to the future needs of developing humanity, even though humanity lagged far behind in taking advantage of it. Therefore, it is to the last great teacher, Jesus Christ, that we must look for the most advanced ideal and latest message to humanity. We find that his work was to transfer the possibility of attainment from the few to the many, to simplify the great truths for the use of all humanity, and to introduce the ultimate act of attainment, the awakening of the love principle in the heart to mankind. His teaching has been in some ways too simple for the muddled and inhibited generations to grasp, but after 2,000 years, there are faint signs that the seed sown is about to burst into life. Now, leaving the religious aspect completely to one side, let us consider entirely from the scientific point of view that the great teachings of the world, headed by Jesus Christ, would do for humanity if put into practice. The medical profession agrees that human beings are prey to the act of auto-intoxication. That's to say, they flood their own systems with various poisons bred by various states of the mind and emotions. Well, it's not just our mind and emotions that are poisoning us. Hell, all the damn big food companies are poisoning us too, you know. The most poisonous of these states are fear. Fear is definitely a poisonous thing, I got to tell you. It's useful in some situations, but most of the time it's a cancer. But the most poisonous of these states are fear, anger, worry, sentimental emotionalism, and jealousy. The destructive emanations set up by these mental and emotional states must be clogging the virility and sensitivity of the race like a heavy pall. And we should not forget to add the emanations from terrified, slaughtered animals to the general agglomeration. This terrible pall of thought poison is, of course, the breeding place for all those, quote, instincts which make war, murder, cruelty, lust, and stupidity possible. It beats with a heavy vibration to which people are drawn, as a speck of iron is drawn to a magnet, if they have no stronger vibration of their own. And from a scientific point of view, their only protection is to develop stronger vibrations, which are those of love, hope, belief, charity, idealism, and intellect. In other words, to learn actually to love one's neighbor, to actually love one's neighbor as oneself, and to have faith even as a grain of a mustard seed. The result, therefore, of everyone obeying these plain injunctions would be to overpower, melt, or short-circuit this heavy pall, this rubbish heap of bad thoughts, breeding spot for the microbes of mental disease. Universal love, as we've pointed out, produces an understanding of all that exists in nature. The result of faith would be a lack of self-poisoning and therefore perfect health. The result of idealism and intellectual development would be complete normality of the reproductive functions, which would produce in its turn perfect eugenic conditions and a natural birth control. And the highly increased mental capacity thus evoked, would be available for the solving of those economic and social problems which defeat the people of today. The practice of meditation, deep breathing, and self-analysis can certainly be the means of pulling people out of the slough, despond, and accumulated generations of bad habits. It constitutes a scientific process of short-circuiting undesirable vibrations. From the purely scientific point of view, therefore, the following of the rules set forth by the great teachers would speedily produce ideal world conditions and the eugenic Superman for which some nations are already striving, however imperfectly. From that which is called the spiritual point of view, however, the prospect is infinitely more thrilling, inspiring, and illuminating. He who is drawn to a spiritual endeavor, who feels the call and the pull of the inner mysteries, will embark on a pilgrimage in which there is no turning back. He will go through the stages of studying the self, developing the self, and then forgetting the self completely. He will then realize that the ultimate privilege and joy, as Jesus Christ came to show, is to serve. His battle cry will be service. And at first he will rush around trying to serve and getting very much in the way of his own inspiration. But later, he will realize that true service is first of all to be. He will understand that if he has once polarized himself to be a permanent channel or receiving station for the light of wisdom, and can hold himself in the state of constant and unchanging radiation, he can become a fixed powerhouse, a torch in the realms of the mind. He can link up with others on the higher levels of their superconscious. He can speak to them and teach them in that sphere where there are no words to describe things, flooding them with illumination, peace, and faith from his own storehouse. They have merely to think of his name and at once feel the anchorage of his vibrations. That might be why when people use, or they vibrate the word Jesus or whatever, like it just helps, especially when you're in one of those fear states or whatever. He learns finally how not to make conscious effort to help others, how not to interfere with their lives or their own way of working out their salvation. He learns not to criticize, but to understand and to be able to interpret them to themselves if they ask it, so that they can learn the particular lessons and reason of their difficulties. He learns to speak to each one who comes to him in his own language and on his own level. He learns to leave in peace those who do not seek his help, and to be a power of ready, quiet strength to those who do. Such an aspirant will begin by envisaging the path before him. The progress from student to probationer, from probationer to disciple, and then from disciple to initiate, and then from initiate to master, and then from master to lord of a planet, and so on upwards and onwards, illimitably. The dazzling prospect will spur him on over the difficult drudgery of the early steps. Isn't that what the Mormons believe? Right? Like that you just keep evolving until you like become a lord of a planet or something. But when the gate of his heart is finally opened and the mystery of love floods his being, then all thoughts of his own progress are obliterated, and he would gratefully stay behind until the last faulty little pilgrim has passed safely on before him. He waits and watches and helps, and suddenly he finds that he is one in activity and in mind with the Creator himself. These things, however, cannot be expressed in words, although much glorious poetry and philosophy have been poured out in that effort. All through history, humanity has been offered the key of heaven, as this little book attempts to offer it. Men exist as partially dead creatures until they have used this key and opened their hearts and minds to reality. Then they are flooded with such life and brilliance and illumination that they do indeed experience a second birth, infinitely greater than the first. As a final word, then, the value of the information touched upon in this book is merely that it can provide the reader with a tool for the building of his life, like a knife, which can be used either to murder a beautiful life or to carve out an everlasting work of art. The value of the tool depends upon the user. It can quite definitely be used for unimagined achievement if the motive power be sincerity and the highest aspiration, or it can result in a conceited boast of superior knowledge in the act of big fish in a little pond if the ideals are not sufficiently strong. Or again, it can fall to the ground through lazy inattention. It is for each individual to decide whether he wishes to become a vital force for good and to realize that until he is truly living for the world and not for himself, he will never achieve anything of that which is thrilling, joyful, wonderful, and inspiring. A selfish person is short-circuited. Nothing from outside can flow through them. Some people are not selfish, however, but self-centered, which is just as inhibiting. They are kind, generous, and vivacious at times, but their thoughts revolve around their own kindness and all their little personal affairs, unceasingly how they feel and felt, and what others think of them, and what they know, and how they love, and what they must do, and how they must help. They are complete prisoners inside their own little personality. It is this I attitude which is so very difficult to get over, and which is such a subtle handicap to many. God, I love this part of the book, or at least that part. Yeah. You ever had to tell somebody, be like, hey, look, I'm not just a character in your story. I'm just as important and exist just as much as you do. Just like everybody else. I've actually had to say that to somebody, you know. The only importance the personality has is that it is there as a sort of buffer to teach one how completely to get the better of it. Personality versus individuality. How can we discriminate between the two? The difference is much the same as between emotion and love. Individuality, the real thing, is a calm, steady, deep, and lasting force felt within a person, his essence, that which composes the ego or inner man. Personality, the word comes from persona, meaning mask, compromises all the little surface peculiarities, moods, and changes, all which has to do with physical life, disturbing, evanescent, and unimportant. In astrology, individuality is that unchanging part of us governed by the sun, while the moon rules the unstable personality. In true sacrifice and service, we use our individuality and keep our personality in complete abeyance. That is what is called slaying our lower man or killing the dragon. True living, if we can learn to love, think, and serve as above described, the mind will become so powerful and coordinated that it will unerringly direct all of our activities. Our calm enthusiasm will inevitably give us that slow, deep, and powerful breathing, which will finally become automatic with us. But if we start at the wrong end by intensive training and breathing, it may give us animal health. It may upset our nervous system. It may even put us in a madhouse, but it certainly will not give us a ready-made, loving heart or wise and potent mind. By the same token, with a mind and heart awake, we will instinctively know how, when, and what to eat. Our calmness will give us that slowness and sparingness in eating, which is the first neglected essential, and our continual development will go hand in hand with a continual modification and change in our diet. If we begin at the wrong end by becoming diet cranks, we may improve our bodies or we may ruin them. The chances are pretty equal, but we will no more create a ready-made wisdom and power that way than by breathing. If our hearts and minds are rightly orientated, we will quite naturally be drawn to those few studies and people with whom we can further our particular work. Our choice will be unerring and inspired. But if we start at the other end with absorption in theoretical studies, teachers, and cults, and count on such outside help for our progress, and have not a strictly honest desire for the truth alone, we shall fall into any number of traps and meet with danger and disillusionment and misery. The false always apes the real. It is only true honesty in ourselves which acts as a tuning fork to recognized honesty in another person. Many people are drawn to great search through a feeling of loneliness, that wistful, misunderstood loneliness which attacks them in the midst of friends and festivities, and which is really the longing of the soul for unity and service with those who know, and for the realization that they are part of a wonderful whole, that they belong and are essential to a glorious plan. Loneliness also comes from being self-centered instead of world-centered, from a craving for a personal love and reward, and thereby the imprisoning of oneself in a tiny mental compartment. Service leads finally to working with others, the beginning of the universal brotherhood which some of us cannot yet picture, yet which is inevitably and actually coming into being before our eyes. The various banners of the vanguard of this universal brotherhood are already flinging a challenge right across the world. To anyone who wishes to achieve fulfillment for himself and to help to build the future golden age, the way is now wide open. The beginning has been made, and the world is passing rapidly from dark age into light, and there remain now only the fetters of man's own blindness or laziness to hold him back. Let us shake off these fetters and move forward with happy ones who are achieving their birthright, the triumph of godhood in human form. Whoa. We're going to clap on that one or what? Very good. Just stand up. I feel like that deserved a much longer clap. One of those political ones, like when the president speaks and all the people in Congress start clapping, you know? I'm not a Freemason, but I like the idea of being able to make the world spin with a long enough lever. Oh, man. All right, so that one's over with. Bing. So, yeah, come Tuesday, we will be doing the interview with Mark. Man, I am freaking ready for that. I could just tell, like, you know, the way the guy, when I confronted him at the store, I was just looking at him in his eyes, man, the whole time, because I know kind of what he was feeling. But I'm thinking this guy probably had an experience, unlike many that get to have that experience. To see, he even seems like he's calmer, even though he's been shot 8 times, once in the face too, and it affects how he speaks. He can't speak the same. But there's a vibration around the dude that is hard to explain. You can just tell that he's had the experience. And I, for one, am grateful that he's going to share that with us. So, yeah, I'm going to enjoy the rest of my Thanksgiving night, and I hope you guys do too. And I'll probably be playing video games until I pass out. It's just something that was one of my favorite pastimes. By the way, I got a new deck thanks to Jeff Gilson. My Rider-Waite tarot deck has been totally destroyed because I've been using it for years. And it was really, it's so crazy. The other day I was thinking, man, you know what would be nice? A brand new Rider Waite deck. Because I think I need one. Because this one's, you know, it gets like grimy on the ends. Went and ate Thanksgiving dinner at my buddy Jeff's house. Had no idea the guy was even into tarot at all. None whatsoever. This was a surprise. And I've known this dude for years. Breaks out a couple tarot decks and had one of these that was unopened. The Rider Waite deck. And he said, well, man, you can have that one. But he had another one called the Casanova Tarot, which we won't go into that one, but it was different. And he said, I'm keeping this one. So thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it, brother. And thanks for all you guys that came out and listened tonight. I'm going to jump off here early. Also, I think it's the Death Card Tarot video that we're going to be doing. That should be coming out soon. I'm still working on getting that out as we go up the tree and release all of the Arcana cards, and then we'll get into the other cards too. But yeah, this, if you want to think about a tarot card, this whole night, yeah, Christy Belly's right, has been about the Star card for sure. Jesus was crucified for talking shit and saying his father was God. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly what happened. Hey, Corey, can you drop that link to that video that you put out on it? Will it? You probably can't. There's a setting I need to change in the chat for. Let me see if I can. Hold on. Y'all got to see this and tell me if you see what I'm seeing. Corey texted me. Where is it? This at this TikTok link right here. I'll change that setting so people can drop links in the chat. I think it's a setting or something. There it is. See if you guys see what Corey sees in that light at the top there. It's really weird. I mean, some people were saying that it could be a planet, right? Oh, I'm ready to go. With the video game tonight? Yeah, check this out. I got it. Let's see. Do I have it up already? Maybe I lost it. Yeah, I lost it. I'm still ready to go. But yeah, I hope you guys have had a happy Thanksgiving. I hope you enjoyed your food. Join the Discord if you haven't joined. Roblox, Minecraft, doesn't matter, whatever. But, oh boy, the computer's starting to go crazy. I think because I dropped that. Yeah, but I love each and every one of you. Give it a second. It'll fix itself. I hope. Try this. No.
Stupid.